sisters. This is Bliss here. Welcome to Shaman's Corner. Today I'm out here in the sunshine thinking about talking about spirit communication and ways in which we can deepen our connection with friends, family, relatives that have passed to the other side, as well as just deepening our clarity with our extrasensory perceptions and trusting our intuition with what we're picking up on. I believe that we all have a very, very deep connection with the other side. I feel like we all just came out of a really intense lunar cycle, and the energy is still very, very prevalent with a solar eclipse at the end of October and then a lunar eclipse to start out November. And it's been very interesting to ground that energy, because we had the Scorpio new moon solar eclipse, and then we had the Taurus full moon lunar eclipse, and it was a lot of very intense energy to begin, a lot of very deep veil lifting sort of energy. See beyond the surface, see beyond the veil of ordinary vision, understanding, and being able to convey that in a level that is difficult to articulate, giving breath to something that doesn't have words a little bit there, and then being able to bring it to a grounding energy to complete with the Taurus full moon lunar eclipse seemed to give us like, okay, now we can bring that down to earth, because there's something that's difficult to understand, way beyond our physical comprehension, being able to ground that down into something nearly physical, maybe even strengthening that connection so that I can access it at any time at will sort of vibrations. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit, because my lunar cycle theme, to share something personal for reflection, I don't know if anyone's going through something similar, but I lost my grandmother. Well, not that I lost her, because she's always with us, and that is the point of talking about this, but I was able to be there the day before she transitioned, and I felt like it was literally smack dab in between these two eclipses, and it was a very beautiful experience to be able to be there and help steward her migration of consciousness from one plane of existence to the next. Not that she's still not here, but now she's expanded into a greater field. And no, don't get me wrong, it's difficult, but I feel like there is a trust and a faith in the connection with people and spirit, that spirit is beyond the body. And just because a body has let go doesn't mean that the spirit has ceased to exist. And there may be a concept of heaven, and there may be a concept of afterlife, but I think that there is a much greater experience of that beyond what we can comprehend and beyond what our rational minds may decide to delegate what that is or what that is to be. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Her husband, my grandfather, died about 3 weeks before I was born, and I have always had him just appear, physically manifest in the house I was growing up in, sort of just like give me these eyes when there were like things going on, watching over me, making sure things were okay. He would always come up in extreme, radical experiences, just like reminding me like I'm not alone. And it was always very reassuring feelings, and I've always felt very protected growing up. An ancestral backup, so to speak. Like, yeah, we've got your back. And of course it reaches way farther back than him, but the point being, like, there may be signs, for example, that someone is trying to reach you or a spirit is trying to communicate with you. It could be, them trying to fuck with material objects or like the lights or something. The light could be flashing on and off in the room. You could have objects tipping over, falling off counters, you weren't even near it. You can hear footsteps. A lot of the signs are auditory and there's no visuals to go with it, like footsteps in the floor above you. There's clearly nobody upstairs, things like that. Things that usually would spook people, like haunted kind of vibes. But it's difficult sometimes to discern the difference between benevolent presences and hauntings if there's not a lot of experience with it, especially with the fear mongering and the themes of movies these days and horror movies and ghost stories and then actual real hauntings, but intention is very prevalent. Even dealing with energies that actually are malicious, there is a respectful and boundaryful boundaryful, I think I just made a word, I like that, boundaryful approach to dealing with that energy, in which you can say, okay, why are you here? You can only interact with me if you are based in love. If not, I demand an explanation to your presence. Is there anything I can do to assist you? Regardless, I ask you to leave this space humbly and then light some sage. You can do a little energy work and light codes and clear them out of the area. But I feel like it's important to be able to observe the fear as a sensation, like, okay, there's a building of altitude here, of amplification, like there's a climactic energy because I'm around another powerful field right now, and it's another aura. And sometimes they're even more powerful because they don't have a body tethering them down. So that's why these experiences can be so intense. So it's good to be able to recognize that and not fall into the fear, but fall into more of a greater awareness of like, wow, this is resonating in my blood and my bones. This is very deep. And it's almost like when you're near a really big animal and you can feel its heartbeat before you can see it. Like you can feel that something really big is nearby, like a big bear, something like that. And you're just like, and it gets kind of primal. Though it's the same thing, but on a more spiritual level, a more non-physical level. So it's interesting because, I, for one, and a lot of other people that I've connected with by doing videos like this and, just being open in my day-to-day life, is that a lot of people have these sorts of experiences, and a lot of people deny them, or a lot of people sort of discourage them because there is a lot of fear associated with these sorts of experiences. But a lot of spirits need assistance being escorted or being encouraged to release their attachments to this plane from this lifetime that they've lived, as well as maybe even other lifetimes before this one. But some spirits really are stuck here, and sometimes it's related to the family, sometimes it's related to an object, sometimes it's related to fears that they had while they were still in the flesh. Sometimes spirits don't even know that they've transitioned, so they're trying to get the attention of the family. Or sometimes, they're free, they're just doing their thing, but they're trying to guide a family member or a friend or a loved one, or maybe just somebody that they don't even related to, but they just know that they need to tell this person something. I've had a lot of spirits come to me. For example, there was this one time I was working an overnight shift years ago, and an old grandfather energy that was not mine was coming over to me, tapping me on the shoulder, telling me, the dude that's next to you, you're working with, tell him I love him, and tell him that his mother was right about blah, blah, blah. I was like, what? Nah, I don't know about that. But it happened like 3 nights in a row. And this guy is kind of a skeptic, and I didn't really know how to approach him, but I ended up being like, hey, so did you have a grandfather that looked kind of like this? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know? I'm like, this is gonna sound weird, but I'm seeing him right now, and he's telling me that your mother said something about this, and she was right, but please don't hold it, and I don't know why it's coming through. Please don't take it personally, but I just really felt like he needed me to tell you, and he loves you. And the dude just like started breaking down crying. Like it was very divine, and there's a safe way that we can have these communications with things beyond our realm, especially when a spirit makes the attempt to reach down and connect with us. And there's a sort of a respect that has to be had for that, because sometimes it's out of desperation. That's when you have darker energies manifesting in spirits, and you'll have like, sort of that poltergeist energy, and it's almost like a hunger. And in those cases, you can just respectfully be like, nah, that ain't how you do it. This is how you do it. You can feed yourself with your own love and your own passion for life, and if you want to expand past this place, you can. And it's okay, you know, and you can be that, perhaps the first person to not give that spirit a cold shoulder because they're trying to do some siphoning thing, and help that spirit to realize, oh, it's okay for me to transcend this lower embodiment, you know. I don't need to do this anymore. But for a situation kind of like that, it's like, okay, so clearly there's a message that's trying to be relayed, and I really respect the spirit that's clearly not from here anymore to come reach back down anyway, back through the veil, and be like, hey, I'm trying to talk to you, you know. A lot of times when I was growing up, I wasn't really trusting in this clairvoyant ability, so I would really try to doubt it, I would really try to smother it, I would try to drown it, and I would suppress it, especially since it was so overwhelming. Like, so many fucking things would come up to me as a kid, you know. I don't want to sound weird, but I feel like this is where a lot of people will sort of check themselves into places because they don't really know how to handle it. And this is like an old shamanic concept, especially carried on by tribes, especially that my ancestors. There's just a lot of spiritual hygiene and cleansing that has not been taught to us these days unless we really, really dig for it, or we just happen to be in a family that talks about it, you know. And it's sort of difficult because it is overwhelming to get a bunch of messages and downloads and seeing things that other people don't really see, and you're like, okay, am I crazy? But you know, it's okay to allow these things, because there can be a discernment between something that I know I have the energy to tap into versus, okay, this is clearly something that a spirit has a difficult time communicating across a veil. Now, this is a time right now in these eclipse energies, and just because also it's Scorpio season is seeing beneath the surface, things being revealed, a very deep energy, being able to go deeper than usual, where the veil is thin. And we also just had Halloween. That's the thinnest day as far as the veil goes. Not that the veil isn't thinning, period, but, you know, just the point that this is a pretty powerful time for that. And that's why Samhain, now known as Halloween, even exists, is because it was a time to honor the spirits, you know. And different cultures have different representations of that, but I'll go to Celtic because that is primarily what I am, although I have tons of stuff. Samhain is definitely a time to respectfully be like, okay, spirits, thank you very much for holding down the frequency and the energy and the elements, because you guys are the elementals now, whether you're aware of it or not. So the disconnect nowadays is that we're experiencing a loss, perhaps, when a family member transitions, or we're experiencing a disconnect, like, I won't see you again till I go, you know, and I go where you're going. And it's interesting to be able to say that there is a buffer time between the transition and then later on, when maybe they're more an active guardian, there's that migration period. I can definitely feel that. But it's cool because they will come through if you open it up, if you allow them to. Especially if you have a sacred altar space and you can leave like a candle and maybe burn an incense, and if there's something they like, I don't know, if your pops enjoyed smoking a cigar or a little bit of liquor, or, you know, he liked these types of hats or something, or, you know, just like a scrap of clothing that has smell on it, a picture, you know, and then you light that candle on a special day and just honor that. Like, yo, thank you for guiding and protecting my family and me, and making that big transition to something greater, a greater form beyond that which I can comprehend right now. Then it's beautiful, because there will be that connection, even if not initially. They can come on in meditation. Sometimes, like, I've had them literally manifest right in front of me. And I remember when I was 4, my grandfather was in the kitchen just looking at pictures of me on the fridge, and it had been on a day where like some spooky stuff had happened, you know. So it's like we're gonna come in on days to let you know that your soul tribe's got your back, you know. And it's also cool because when we can tune in to this field greater than us that connects everything, and we can meet them on their level, it's a lot more exhausting for spiritual energy to try to become physical, to talk to you, because you are not opening up to it. So to try to move physical objects, like, you know, like that's cool. Like, I'm glad they're accessing their power, because that does take a lot of strength to be able to be like, hey, I'm moving this shot glass across the counter. Look at me. You know, like, hey, I knocked this over. You gonna notice I'm here yet? Instead, you just might get freaked out. But if you can tune in and like kind of meditate and be like, I contact my ancestors, I let my ancestors know I'm grateful for them, and then like try to like, you know, then that's cool, because now you're meeting them at their level, and maybe they can come out a little bit, you can meet them in the middle. That's a respectful way to communicate, especially through an altar space, because then that's with boundaries. Come through on this table or in this corner of the room. You're not gonna fuck with anything in my house. I'm gonna talk to you right here. This is the telephone. You know what I mean? And then that's cool, because that way, if you're skeptical of spiritual energy, which, you know, all of us should be skeptical to a degree and protect our energy and make sure we're doing it safely and with boundaries, healthily, even if it is family, you know, just like, but this is where I'm going to talk to you right here. That's safe. That's a good vibe. Because anybody and anything can be too much sometimes. And it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing with my energy, you know, so having that little telephone booth is a very good idea. I've been doing that for a few years now, especially with pictures and, you know, a little candle and some incense, and you know, I know this guy liked this kind of music, so I'll put that music on, because I love music. I love connecting with music, so I'm like, yeah, you dig that? Yo, come through, let's talk. So there's that guidance level that is very, very cool to be mindful of, that, like I already said, we can meet them on a vibrational level, so that no one's exhausting themselves. You're not projecting, separating from your body to go talk to them, and they're not coming through and having to really, you know, work it to get your attention. You'll see a lot of hauntings actually just be a relative or something of the sort just trying to talk to them, just trying to talk to you or something like that. For me, I used to have spirits try to talk to me through crystals, especially the faceted pointed crystals, like the laser cut crystals or the polished crystals that were faceted into points, or just a clear quartz. And it still happens to me sometimes, but nowadays I've kind of figured out how to have my peripherals open, so I can just like have a knock on the door and I'll be like, oh, what's up? Yeah, maybe not. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, come in for a second, you know? That kind of vibe, where it's like respectful. Like, there is an entrance point here that not everyone's allowed through, but people can kind of just hit me up on if they need to. For that mediumship vibe, I've always found myself around people who are trying to comprehend and deal with death in their lives, as well as dealing with it myself. And I feel like I've always found myself in those situations, as well as having this natural mediumship of, for some reason, I feel like there's an assistance, like a game of broken telephone from one side to the other, vice versa, that I'm here to help with. And I feel like I'm making this for anybody else who feels that way, but also for other people who wish to deepen their awareness of these sorts of things. But it's not for no reason. If there is skepticism or fear there, rest assured, you can stay ignorant to it if you wish, but these aren't for no reason. This is for genuine awareness and tapping in. And I feel like crystalline assistance, talismans, crystal jewelry made with pure intention, meditative practices, energetic hygiene, you know, all that sorts of stuff is very, very helpful to ground it down, to stay practical, Yeah, it feels very important to be able to anchor that in whenever we have the space for it. So, let me see. I feel like there's layers. If we could close our eyes and visualize that we're in the middle of a sphere, and there are multiple layers of the sphere outside of that as well as within that, attached into the microcosmical layers of our body, but also macrocosmically outside of us, we can look at that as different realms, different layers of dimensional access. And the subtler it gets on the outside, also inside, same exact thing. This is just for visual representation, of course. The subtler it gets, the less physical it gets. And then we can sort of see each time it tries to come through, it gets more and more difficult because it's a little bit more and more physical. And we have a period of time where we have the luxury of being able to walk around this physical realm and be able to interact with the stage where all of the dreams come to become reality. We're here for a little bit of time. Otherwise, we are back into the elemental world. So I think that being able to be aware of the layers, see them, feel them, however it presents itself to you. It does not have to be visual. It's always there. It's okay. I'm just visual. To be able to extend across and back within at your own will is a good practice to be able to have. Even if it's just practicing the visualization of it or the feeling of it. And a good way to keep boundaries is to work with grounding stones. I like working with black tourmaline because I feel like it gets rid of mental chatter and grounds down what we're trying to focus on. And I feel like it disciplines the third eye, so it's not so overwhelming, but it connects the third eye to the root chakra to be able to make more clarity out of fear. So fear is excitement. Fear is an alarm system that something is nearby. Fear can also just be, okay, this is the buildup of my energy. I feel like building up root chakra energy is building pressure for something greater that can echo out into what we're sensitive to or what we're communicating with or connecting with. But when it stagnates and it can't jump out of the root chakra and it's not being able to come up here, then it'll resonate as fear because it's stuck, feels trapped. And then it can manifest into anger, depression, anxiety, and then that is what we would then put out into the universe to attract. So it's always good to work with energies that help grounding energy to move freely. Citrine is also pretty good for that too. I have both of them with me because that's a great combo, right? Being able to encourage that movement of energy. So I would like to look at the ways in which we can communicate. I like communicating through crystals. I like communicating through meditation. I like communicating through... some people like using mirrors. I don't enjoy using mirrors. I really do enjoy just using my closed eyes, my affirmations, and my love, my heart. And the first thing I will always state is anything I'm trying to communicate with, if it's not based in pure love, I do not wish for you to be near me. And you cannot be near me, and it is just a wall to all else. If I ever have to communicate with anything that's not based in love to figure some shit out, or to understand why you're here, get answers, or to clear a space that needs to be cleared of that sort of energy, it'll be able to come up to the wall, but it can't come in. And we'll talk through there. And then if you don't want to talk, okay, then I'm just going to do this clearing because I don't like what you're bringing. But I'll always be able to relay there is something more than this feeding energy. And it is okay to be able to cultivate your own love. And I'll maybe demonstrate some chi movement, or maybe just demonstrate what blinding light from the heart looks like if they don't have any light, you know? Not that darkness is bad, but there needs to be a balance there, a little yin yang. So And this is all just to be able to remove fear with communication and trust that you can decide what comes into your field, only the best, you know. So I feel like a lot of spirits, once humans, have a lot of attachments to this world, especially family members who love their family a lot can consciously attach themselves to everybody in the family. Because some people, that is love. And it's a good idea to be able to practice with oneself non-attachment. Not meaning like I let you go and then that's it. But there is a love that can be held in the heart without needing a cord, without needing to attach yourself to that person. It's like if you love someone, set them free, but some people won't set them free because they're afraid they're gonna lose them. So there is that fear where to be able to trust that if I set you free and you leave me, then okay. But if I set you free and you stick around, and it's because you feel that I'm not attaching you to anything and I'm not holding you to an expectation, and you feel that I set you free, so you're still chilling. And that's really important for humans to learn to practice that. Because when we leave, and it's just the spirit without the body, the spirit might not be able to move because it's got all these cords. And that's why I like practicing cord removal. And I will also guide cord removal. Anybody wants to hit me up, we can do one-on-one vibes with cord removal practices if you want to learn how to do clearings. It is definitely a thing that is very prevalent. Some of the craziest poltergeist energies I've ever dealt with, because when I first got into this, I just used to do exorcisms and home clearings before I really decided to channel most of it into my jewelry. It's interesting because, you know, this is something that my ancestors have done. Some of my ancestors are Tuareg tribe from the Sahara Desert. And there's some Berber people, and they used to do group exorcisms because the spirits in the desert were so crazy. And there was a lot of very violent spirits out there, especially when they possessed people. So the talismans that they used to make, or still do make actually, were very much for spiritual protection. The signs and symbols and the sigils that they would engrave were all for making sure that your temple is pure and cleansed and only the highest is allowed in. And it's interesting because they would do group exorcisms together. Everyone would get around the fire and everybody would chant and everybody would release and help other people release too. Even if they were foreign to the tribe, they would do it all together. And it's the vibration that only the best is allowed in this vibration. And so, you know, in their experience, in other tribes' experience, because obviously everyone's got their own version of clearing, and I was just using that as an example though. When I've done clearings, the most intense spirits that I've come into contact with have usually ended up being traumatized, hurt, repressed people with these sort of emotional wounds who have not experienced love in their lifetimes, who have really needed assistance comprehending that pure vibe at a very young age. Perhaps even it was just pain, trauma. So when the spirit comes detached from the body, especially if the spirit became detached from the body before it ever had closure with any of these things, it's gonna be lost. Not always, but it very well could be lost. Like, where am I? What am I? Why am I here? What does it even mean to be loved? Why am I trapped in this? Why can't anybody hear me? Why can't anybody see me? What is this place? And a lot of times they'll be in a mirror to this place, very adjacent. And that's why it's called a veil, is because it's here but not here. So they would be, for example, standing right here, but they're not here, but they're here. Does that make any sense? So it's interesting to think about and to look at, because that means that it takes a very special, specific amount of concentration, of relaxation, of focus and acceptance to be able to make that contact. And it could be something as simple as the wind moving, that like something's walking over there, you know. And that's why it's interesting to look at storms as like a really big manifestation of some powerful energy, maybe like these hurricanes, like the hurricane that just hit Florida that's now moving up the East Coast. Like, what if that's just a huge spirit or a group of spirits that are so distraught from the earth? Maybe that's just earth elemental spirits that are so disgruntled and unhappy with the way that earth has been treated. You know, like all of these sorts of vibes that we don't really think about. Like, where can this stillness and presence and patience and pure love be shared, even amongst the non-physical community? It is a community. It is a community. And it's very important to be able to, of course, like I've already been saying, approach this with boundaries, but with acceptance of oneself, not doubt. You know, and you can work with your intuition. There's definitely like resonances that you can learn to listen to from your own body. Like, oh, that's a yeah, oh, that's a no. And usually if it's not a 100% yes, don't do it. You need a full body or full heart reaction. Yeah, this is okay. And if you feel that 100%, if you feel that 100% no, or any less than 100% yes, 99% yes, no. And trust that intuition. Definitely trust that intuition. But when it's rapid fire and the first thing that comes into your mind before the doubt speaks, that's usually it. So it's cool. It's cool because, well, the most important thing I want to relay here is that there is no loss. There is no energy lost or gained. It's always reused in different forms because all is one is all. Everything is here. So in the concepts of alchemy, it's like I may be here right now and all of me may be a different form later. And I may become the flowers, the grass, the sunshine, the trees, but I'm still me. But I am in other things now. And I can speak through other things now. I may not articulate myself then as I do now. But that's okay because I'm still here. I'm still an energy. I'm still a force. And this is a physical anchor to help another person comprehend what my essence is. To help give someone a physical anchor to communicate with me. So even when I do not occupy this physical vessel anymore, someone can picture me and it will help them interface with me later. Help them reach me later, wherever I'm at in the astral. So that I can be like, ooh, someone's picturing me, I can feel that. You know, because otherwise, how would they be able to pick me out other than just feeling my essence? You know, so it just helps the cerebral sort of logicalize, because not that it needs to be logicalized, but it helps solidify the connection a bit more. So that's why it's like good to put a picture of your relatives on your altar, you know. One crystal that definitely helped me to increase my awareness of this sort of thing is blue apatite. I don't have any with me right now, but it's over there. I don't want to get up. So it's really good for thinning the veil of your own mind, your own limitations, repealing them back as far as being aware of that sort of thing goes. Blue kyanite as well. Blue kyanite might be a little bit more aggressive with it, just kind of push you into a lucid dream or an astral projection, out-of-body experience. But both of them are going to be very, very helpful with this sort of thing. Not too intense, but definitely like enough to make you feel it, to make you really aware of it. It takes a lot of trust in oneself to be able to surrender to these types of things. It probably won't happen right away, but you know, let it happen. And if you're somebody that's experiencing a lot of spiritual contact right now, it's because right now is a time, you know, on this plane that is allowing more of these things to happen more regularly and more normally right now than usual. And there's a lot of weird things going on, a lot of plans that you may have been like trying to be like, this is the way this is gonna happen, that's just getting shifted. And I'm not saying this is like ghosts messing with you. I'm saying like there's something going on in the universe right now that is allowing more variables and probabilities to take place. That's why meditative practices are key to really hone in on a goal or a frequency or a focus, to allow there to be a path. Even if it's not the same path as you want it to be, there's still an essence of, this is what I'm putting my energy into. So something along those lines is going to come through, and it's going to be exactly what's meant for me in the best of ways. And that's the same way that we can take advantage of this time to honor our ancestors, honor our relatives, honor our spirit guides. Spirit guides can go beyond just being relatives. It's something beyond this matrix, beyond our comprehension of incarnation and bloodlines, and even just a realm. More of like a star kind of thing. So allowing this to take place and unfold in the healthiest of ways, with boundaries, with a grounding practice, and with reverence for these spirits, is the best way to go about it. So I feel like I have reached the pinnacle of what I'm trying to explain and iterate and relay. So thank you to everybody who has stayed present for this video. I know I touched on so many things, but it's just my mind reeling. And open yourself up to connection, because I know there's a lot of fear regarding these sorts of things, or uncertainty, or like, am I just hearing shit and seeing shit? You know, sometimes you might be, but other times it actually might be literally like, yo, I feel like someone's trying to talk to me right now. And there's a way to be able to do it without identifying with it. Create, like I said, doorway or corner or a little telephone box for that to happen in. You're protected, everything else is protected. This is where I allow this communication to happen. There's a safe space. Not that I don't trust you, not that I do trust you, it's just, this is the space that I've laid out respectfully. And if it's too much, then you break the sage out, get a little selenite one, and go away. Too much. Come back later. Or not. And, you know, there is a level to which we are always protected. We are never alone. More so than you think. But there's safe ways to clear energy, and there's safe ways to connect with energy. Especially when it is a loved one that you just want to make sure you know that you can reach out to and be like, hey, are you doing okay? How has your migration of consciousness been? Praying for you every day. I send you love along your journey. Feel free to reach out to me. And if you ever have the death doula role to be able to assist someone in their migration of consciousness, and they are receptive to have a deep conversation, you don't have to dive into details. You can just let them know that it's okay to let go of the fear, and let it be an opportunity for surrender and light, and tell that fear that I choose love every time. I will always choose love. If they're receptive to it, tell them that. It doesn't have to be anything more. It doesn't have to be any more detailed. Just tell them that you can choose love every time. I also made the choice to tell people that I've been with in situations like this that I'll see them in the light later. But for now, hit me up. I will hear you. And I even told that to my grandmother. So, and I feel like she heard me in there. She said, she nodded, said, okay. And you can say that. It's okay to say that. But keep it light. But say those things for sure if you feel comfortable. Because with boundaries and with respect, they'll hit you up. You'll feel it. You'll hear it. It'll be a chill. You'll start crying. You know, maybe bring it into some art. Make a painting or play some music, play the piano or something. I don't know. Just give it a space to manifest properly, respectfully, and lovingly. Because they're always with us. And spirits need love too. So that's all I've got. Be at peace with all you're experiencing right now in these crazy times, even if it has nothing to do with what I talked about. Just know you're loved, know you're protected, and everything's good. Get the sunshine. Thank you for seeing in Shaman's Corner. This is Bliss signing off. Have a peaceful day.